The thunder rumbled over the Lagos skyline as rain streaked down the tall windows of the Starlight Hotel. In the dimly lit VIP suite, Richard Williams lay sprawled on the bed, shirt half open, his breathing deep and even. A half-empty glass of whiskey rested on the nightstand beside him, evidence of a long day and too many drinks after finalizing a stressful business deal. He hadn't planned to pass out, but exhaustion and alcohol had taken their toll. Downstairs, Claire Benson, a 22-year-old law student working part-time at the event, had just escaped a close call. One of the high-profile guests had cornered her, whispering indecent things as she tried to serve him champagne. She had slipped away, shaken, and hurried down the hallway. That's when a hotel staffer spotted her. You're the agency girl, right? Suite 209. The CEO's been waiting. What? No, she tried to explain, but the man didn't wait. He opened the door, gave her a gentle push, and shut it behind her. Claire found herself in an elegant suite. Quiet. Private. She turned, and froze. There, on the bed, was a man. Alone. Unconscious. She inched closer, confused and concerned. Sir, she said softly. No response. He looked peaceful. Just, drunk. She saw the glass, the untouched food tray. Her eyes softened. Clearly, no harm was intended here. But before she could turn to leave, she heard footsteps in the hallway. The men from downstairs. The same ones who made her feel unsafe. Panicking, she scanned the room. No other exit. If they saw her, they'd say things, do worse. Desperation made her act fast. She slipped off her heels, messed up her hair a little, unzipped her dress just enough, and slid under the covers beside the stranger. Her heart raced. She didn't even know his name. The door opened slightly. A few heads peeked in. Then, soft curses. Damn. Too late. He's not alone. They left. Claire stayed still for a long moment, letting her heart settle. When it was finally silent again, she moved to get up, but then the man stirred beside her. He opened his eyes slowly, confused and disoriented. What? You drank too much, she said gently. You needed rest. Their eyes met in the low light. His gaze was hazy, but focused on her face. There was a quiet beat. Something unspoken passed between them, fragile, intense. Then he touched her face. She didn't flinch. Instead, her hand met his. It wasn't planned. It wasn't even logical. But in that moment, wrapped in tension and vulnerability, they kissed. And that night, for the first time in her life, Claire gave herself to someone. Not because she was forced, not because she owed him anything, but because, in that strange and fleeting moment, she wanted to feel seen. Wanted to forget the weight of her life. They made love, tenderly, quietly. She didn't tell him it was her first time. By morning, Claire sat at the edge of the bed, fully dressed, staring at the city through the wet glass. Richard was still asleep, one arm outstretched across the empty side of the bed. She glanced at his wristwatch on the table. Silver. Elegant. Definitely worth a small fortune. She picked it up, then hesitated. She didn't want to be that kind of person. Then her phone buzzed. A hospital text. Final notice. Payment overdue. Her younger brother's surgery couldn't wait. With trembling fingers, she slipped the watch into her bag. But before she left, she found a notepad on the desk and scribbled a note. You drank too much. I stayed. I never planned this. See. She placed it beside his phone and walked out. When Richard woke up, the room was quiet. He sat up, blinking at the morning light. Something felt different. He looked around. The faint smell of perfume lingered. Then he saw the note. He read it once. Then again. He stood and walked to the mirror. Just beneath his jawline, barely visible, was a lipstick mark. And his watch? Gone. But the stranger? Gone, too. All he had left was the memory of her warmth, a letter C, and a feeling he couldn't shake. The hospital corridor buzzed with life as Claire stepped off the bus, her legs aching from the long shift at the event hall. The envelope of cash in her hand felt heavier than it should. Every step toward the billing office reminded her why she'd taken that job, her younger brother, Chuka, lying in a hospital bed, waiting for surgery they couldn't afford. She handed the money to the nurse behind the desk, who counted it with quick fingers. "You've covered everything," the nurse finally said, smiling. "He'll have his surgery today." Claire closed her eyes and exhaled deeply. Relief, guilt, exhaustion, all rushing in at once. She nodded in gratitude, then hurried down the hall toward the ward. Her mother was sitting beside Chuka, gently wiping his forehead. She looked up as Claire entered, her eyes tired but warm. "Claire, you came back," she said, standing to embrace her. "The nurses said you paid everything." "My daughter, thank you." Claire hugged her mother tightly, holding back tears. "How is he?" "The doctors said they'll take him in soon," her mother replied. "He's been resting." Then her tone shifted. "But I don't know what to do about Emily." Claire pulled back, confused. "Emily? What happened?" Her mother sighed, her face falling. "She went back to him. That boyfriend of hers, the one who hit her before." "What?" Claire's voice rose in disbelief. "After everything she went through?" "I tried to stop her, Claire. I begged her. But she packed her things and left before sunrise. Said he's changed. That he loves her." Claire shook her head in frustration, but there was nothing more to say. The family needed peace, not more heartache. Later that night, after Chuka's surgery was declared a success, the doctor confirmed he'd be discharged in 2 days. It was the best news they'd heard in months. 2 days later, Chuka came home. Thin, tired, but smiling. The family shared a simple meal. For the first time in weeks, laughter returned to the house. Then, 3 days later, Emily returned. She stumbled into the house just before dark, her hair messy, her lips split, and one eye bruised. Claire froze where she stood. "Emily," she whispered. Emily burst into tears and collapsed into Claire's arms. "He beat me again, Claire. Even after I told him I'm pregnant." Claire gasped, holding her tightly. "You're pregnant?" 3 weeks, Emily cried. "And he didn't care. He threw me against the wall. I can't stay with him. Please, I need money. I need to leave the city before he finds me again." Claire didn't speak. She walked quietly into her room, opened her savings tin, and returned with the last notes she had. Emily took them with trembling hands. "Thank you," she whispered, but after counting them, her face fell. "This won't be enough. I need to get far away." "I've given you all I have," Claire said gently. Emily's eyes darted around the room, then landed on the wristwatch sitting beside Claire's books, the same watch Claire had taken from Richard the billionaire. Before Claire could react, Emily snatched it. "Emily, no! I'll return it, I swear," she cried, already running for the door. "I have no choice." The door slammed behind her. Claire stood still, heart pounding. The wristwatch, her only link to that night, to the man who lost her virginity to, was gone. Richard Williams had been born into wealth, but he never leaned on it to build his empire. As the only child of the late business mogul Harold Williams, he grew up surrounded by everything money could buy: luxury cars, vacations in Monaco, private tutors, and boardrooms full of executives who bowed to his father's every word. But even with all that, Richard was driven. Focused. Strategic. By the time he was 28, he was already CEO of Williams Crest Holdings, a billion-dollar conglomerate spanning real estate, tech, oil, and media. He was smart, respected, and intimidatingly handsome. Women flocked to him, and business deals lined up like dominoes waiting to fall at his command. But none of that erased the night that kept playing in his head. It was supposed to be a regular celebration. just drinks after sealing a high-stakes international merger in Abuja. But the night had taken an unexpected turn. He had drunk more than usual, a rare thing for him, and woken up the next morning in a luxurious hotel suite, groggy, shirt half off, and with a lingering scent of something soft, warm, feminine. She was gone. No trace. No name. Just a short, mysterious note on the bedside table. You were vulnerable. I protected you. I never meant for this to happen. See. At first, he thought little of it. Maybe a fan. A hotel staff member with bold intentions. But then he saw the blood on the sheets. His heart stuttered. She had been a virgin. Something about that moment shifted everything. That night, which should have meant nothing, now carried weight. Meaning. A story. He didn't remember her face. He didn't know who she was. But he knew what had happened mattered, at least, to him. He kept trying to shake her off. Days turned to weeks, but his mind kept drifting back to her. The mystery girl who gave him something pure, then vanished like a whisper. Then came the second shock. His Audemars Piguet wristwatch, the one his father gave him shortly before his death, was gone. He hadn't misplaced it. He never misplaced that watch. It was the one piece of his father he carried everywhere. Richard's heart hardened. That watch had a tracker built into it, a security feature added by his late father. It was meant for emergencies. He called Marcus, his head of security, immediately. Activate the tracker, he ordered. I want that watch found. I don't care how long it takes, just bring it back. Marcus didn't ask questions. Yes, sir. We'll begin immediately. But Richard wasn't just trying to recover the watch. Deep down, he hoped it would lead him back to her. The girl with the shaky handwriting, the courage to give him her virginity, to a stranger, then disappeared before the sun rose. Who was she? And why couldn't he forget her? Emily pushed open the dusty glass door of the small pawn shop in Acadia. Her hoodie was pulled over her head, her eyes darting nervously around. Clutched tightly in her hand was the one thing she had left of real value, a silver luxury wristwatch with a sleek face and weighty feel. She walked up to the counter and placed it down gently. The shop owner, a thick-set man with a crooked smile, picked it up and let out a low whistle. Where you get this kind wristwatch? He asked, clearly impressed. It was a gift, Emily replied calmly. How much will you pay for it? The man squinted at the back of the watch, then turned around and took it into a small room behind the counter. The moment he opened the back casing to verify its authenticity, a tiny tracker inside blinked, a signal had just been triggered. At that same moment, in the security control room of Williams Crest Holdings, a red light flashed across a monitor. Desmond Okoro, Richard's stern-faced chief of security, snapped his head toward the screen. Tracker active. Item, silver Audemars Piguet watch. Location, Acadia. Desmond grabbed his comms and called immediately. Sir, we've found the watch. Pawn shop. Acadia. Within minutes, a convoy of black SUVs peeled out from the company's secure garage, heading for the location. Back at the shop, the owner came out with wide eyes. This watch, it's real. And worth a fortune, he muttered, visibly shocked. Omo, this one now luxury of the highest level. But I fit give you 300,000 Nigerian nairas now. Emily's eyes widened. That was more than enough for her to leave town and start over. She nodded quickly. Deal. He opened his drawer to grab the cash. But before he could hand it over, the door of the pawn shop swung open with force. Richard Williams stepped inside, tall, commanding, and flanked by two sharply dressed bodyguards. Desmond followed closely, scanning the shop like a hawk. The shop owner froze, still holding the money. Emily turned slowly, her heart thumping wildly. Richard's eyes immediately fell on the silver watch on the counter, then to the girl standing next to it. You, he said firmly, walking closer. I've been looking for you. Emily's mouth went dry. Me? Yes. That night, in the hotel. You left me behind without saying goodbye. He stepped forward, his eyes softening. I've thought about you every day since. That night was unforgettable. Emily's mind raced. She remembered how they always had to suffer to get things. Her sister had to work several jobs just to put herself through law school. She was a dropout and wasn't ready to work or stress. And now, this man, this billionaire, who thinks she was Claire. She took a breath, then gave him a small, shy smile. I didn't think you'd remember. I couldn't forget. You saved me from my drunken state and gave me a night I could never forget, Richard said gently. What do you say we get to know each other better? I'm flying to Paris tomorrow. Come with me. Her mouth parted in shock. Paris? She turned to a corner, quickly called her sister. Claire didn't answer, so Emily left a voice message. Claire, it's me. I'm leaving Lagos, maybe for a long time. Don't come looking for me. I'm safe now. Please tell Mom. She ended the call, turned around, and smiled. Her life was about to change forever. Claire sat on the edge of her bed, her phone pressed against her chest. She had just finished listening to the voice note Emily sent. Claire, it's me. I'm leaving Lagos, maybe for a long time. Don't come looking for me. I'm safe now. Please tell Mom. Claire blinked away tears. She turned to her mother, who was quietly folding clothes on the mattress beside her. Mom, Claire said softly, Emily's gone. She said not to look for her. Their mother paused, her hands trembling slightly. Gone where? Claire shook her head. She didn't say. Just that she's safe. Meanwhile, Emily was dining beneath golden lights in one of Paris's most exclusive restaurants. Across from her sat Richard Williams, billionaire CEO of Westbridge Group, sipping wine and watching her intently. As the waiter cleared their plates, Emily placed her hand gently over Richard's. I need to tell you something, she said, lowering her voice. Richard leaned forward, concerned. I'm pregnant, Emily said, her eyes shimmering. There was a beat of silence. Are you sure? He asked. She nodded. It's yours, Richard. From that night. But was that the truth? The pregnancy was from her abusive ex-boyfriend back in Lagos. But when Emily saw how wealthy Richard is, the expensive shopping, the luxury lifestyle, she knew this was her chance to escape her past and poverty and secure her future. Richard reached across the table and took her hands. Then we need to talk about what comes next. I won't abandon you, or the baby. Emily forced a teary smile, thinking, this is it. My new life. Back in Lagos, Claire struggled to concentrate on her law lectures and part-time jobs. She was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. One morning, while preparing for school, she glanced at her calendar and froze. Her period was 2 weeks late. No, she whispered, panic setting in. The symptoms were all there: nausea, dizziness, mood swings. Her stomach turned as she realized the truth. She was pregnant. From that night, a one-night stand with a stranger. 2 sisters, 2 secrets. One child with a rightful father. And another lie, wrapped in a billionaire's world.